Today we're taking a good stern look at the Ultra Pro controller, not because the name sounds more rambunctious than its brother over here, the Gemini, but because the right niblet or analog stick is very reminiscent of a GameCube controller. Sounds like such a frivolous reason for me to want to review this model than its homeboy that rolled in on the same bus, but fuck you. Without further ado, let's bust the biscuits out of this box and review the sub $60 Switch and Windows tri-mode connectivity controller, testing it on a variety of components. Let's get it. A quick disclaimer for my audience, the Stallions and Stallionettes, this controller was sent for review, but this is going to be an honest, comprehensive review. I haven't been paid or told to say anything about it, so if there's any cons, shortcomings, or areas of improvement, you're going to hear about it. So these companies make better products over time. I'm about to give you a summary of what we're reviewing here today. The BinBok Ultra Pro, which is a $60 controller, well, actually $57 plus a 10 percentile coupon. Love it. One-day shipping, like that as well. In the very near future, we are going to be taking a look at the Gemini, a slightly cheaper BinBok controller. It looks like it's going to be a humdinger as well. But a quick summary, this is a multi-platform controller, and we always have a good laugh and a knee slap about that on the channel, as we know that is honestly going to be one console platform, being Switch, and then PC or Windows, as that's going to work with a baked potato, pretty much anything. But with the use of converters or adapters, which we'll be testing in this video, you may be able to get up and working on the Xbox and PlayStation. There's an 8-way D-pad, which feels floaty as shit. We'll talk about it later. You've got instant mechanical buttons, which are going to win an award, but perhaps not the category that you're expecting. You do have RGB LED lighting, which can be dimmed or disabled. Those mechanical face buttons, a little bit of a typo here, but you know what? Actually, it's not a typo because that is very fitting of how these face buttons feel. They are mechanical face buttons. They feel mechanical. I'm gonna talk about them later. There's no reason to have a membrane plunger under there if they're mechanical switches. And then high compatibility. BinBok's gotta be high if they think this is high compatibility. With the use of converters, we will get it to high compatibility. This is sober compatibility mode. We'll get it to high compatibility later. Take some rips. As for the packaging and included accessories, for now, the Gemini's box is just here for moral support, as we will be busting the biscuits out of that bad boy at a later date. But the catchphrase or slogan atop the outer box is "Born to Game." You will have your controller inside of this plastic baggie. Then you have a little plastic tray with some weird warping. Looks like it got melted, I guess sitting on the shelf too long or something. That's confidence inducing. Then you have a couple of swappable thumbstick cap options and your massive 2.4 gigahertz dongle. No dust cover. You do have a little sync button though, and it looks like a little LED indicator light. Very short 3-foot rubber USB-C cable, not microfiber or braided. Not very lightweight or flexible either, but this is just used for charging, as this is a wireless controller. Unless you want to go wired, in which case I would use a better USB-C cable, maybe bring your own to the party. Two medium rise concaves, although they're actually more flat and don't provide the best grip. The rubber silicone compound's actually pretty slick. The most grippy part is actually around the outer rim, so you've got to rim it, I guess, to get good grip. The center section is super slick, but we will be testing KontrolFreeks compatibility later. And then of course you do have these little nipples over here, which are fucking great because it's just like a GameCube controller. So if you like those, you can pop one of these bad boys on there and get the same feel. And the instruction manual, pamphlet, or brochure isn't terrible. It is labeled as a welcome guide, so basically a quick start guide with instructions on how to get set up on Switch as well as PC and Linux PC, Steam Deck. As for the cosmetics or appearance, I am a big old fat non-dieted fan of this bad boy. It does have a flat matte faceplate with a soft touch rubberized material, very soft and supple on the fingertips, and also looks incredibly nice. Everything's grayed out, blacked out without a doubt. Flip it around on backside. Also murdered out, blacked out. There's not even a regulatory information sticker. That's all underneath the battery tray cover. A slew of buttons back here, which might look badass to you or might look silly. I'm indifferent. There's buttons. Whoa, I'm not indifferent about what the gimbal just did. This is why I don't use the gimbal nearly as much as I go freehand, because it's a pain in the wiener schnitzel to use. But this is just a nice, classy, understated design. It's not gonna throw out the colors of your theme. This is pretty sick. I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. As for the comfort, this has a very interesting shape and shell design. It is very reminiscent, very similar to what Razer's been using for the last 6 or 7 years, and we can see that around the ass end of the Wolverine V2 Chroma, as these have rather large palm grips, and I've always recommended these controllers for medium to larger size as there is larger spacing between the palm grits, and they're also a little bit rounder and give you something more substantial to grab onto. Now the BinBok over here actually shaves those in quite a bit up top, making them a lot more ergonomically comfortable, just a natural position to rest your hands, so it's kind of the best of both worlds. It took what Razer was trying to do and made a couple of revisions to where it is now supremely comfortable. Not to mention, it does have rubber or silicone grips, which look very similar to the Razers, but feel leagues better. The only thing is they are very soft, squishy, supple rubber, which means these do have potential to break down rather quickly, but only time will tell. I'm going to give ergonomics and comfort a 10 out of 10 as of now, a perfect score. This bad boy is freakishly comfortable, and the reason it gets a perfect score is this is a different shape and shell design than something like the Xbox One or PlayStation DualShock or DualSense. This is its own beast, its own dimensions, slightly modified from what Razer's been doing, and it just works out phenomenally. So it's good to see the innovation, and it's good to see it work out and land with a comfortable controller. As for the quality of the build, the Ultra Pro does feel ultra professional, extremely premium, not just for the price point. I know a lot of times I caveat that compliment in the build quality by saying, for the price point, little period at the end of the sentence. Not so much here, as this feels good for any segment of controller. I think that comes down to how well the combination of this rubberized soft touch faceplate and these actual rubberized grips come together. Even though they're two different rubber materials, they work really well together. And despite the fact I hate the face buttons, they don't feel like they're undurable, and they do have a tap life cycle of 5 million clicks. There is a 1-year warranty on this controller. All the components feel good, no weird panel gap where the front faceplate and rear shell meet. Although I will say, cosmetically, I hate this gloss or piano black trim piece that meets with the RGB LED strip. If the LED could continue all the way around back, or this could be matte black to match the rest of the rear shell, that'd be fantastic. You might be wondering why I had the battery tray removed. That is because this does come with a rechargeable power pack, which is fantastic because, oh geez, that's in there good. Because usually you'd have to source some kind of a charging cradle and power pack kit on Amazon for about 20 bucks. At least that's what we've been doing on the Xbox side of the house for years, all the way back to the Xbox 360. This comes with one, which is fantastic. And to recharge it, you're just going to seat it in the controller and then use the USB-C port at the top. Build quality feels fantastic. No 3.5mm headphone jack, so something to note. No complaints here. I'm going to go ahead and give it a 9 out of 10. As for the D-pad or direction buttons, I mentioned during the summary they are floaty. It all just melts together like a big bowl of input soup. Am I pressing down right now, or is that down left? You get no tactile confirmation or click in your fingertip that, yup, am I still pressing down right now? Also a lot of side-to-side player wiggle. And this also sits way further from the front faceplate than it needs to. Also, the plastics used don't feel the best. Relatively quiet, gotta give it a little praise. It will work if you're just playing modern shooters, swapping between weapons and navigating menus, but if you're playing some retro platformers or some fighting games and you're using a D-pad frequently, this ain't the controller for you, bud. As for the face or action buttons, these are by far the worst that I can recall to date. And that is because these almost feel like a two-stage or two-step spring. So you have a press, which provides a click. Why is this thing making weird noises? Hello? You got juice in you, come on. Oh, there it goes. This thing is such a piece of crap. I have had so much off-camera struggles with this device. It almost feels like a two-stage or two-step spring. So you get a tactile click and you think, yeah, I've just hit the button, but then it clicks again. So it almost feels like there's two actuations. And at first I thought I had a faulty face button, but then I realized that's on all of them. That's just naturally how it's supposed to feel. Holy shit. But I will give them some praise. I do like the size, spacing, also the fact that they're flat and not really very rounded like Xbox buttons. Also, the plastics are a flat matte, minus the gloss lettering, but not a huge deal there. And they're not very loud. But actuation force feels so much longer. It feels like there's so much more travel, and you also do feel like you have 2 clicks in there, which feels so weird. So because of that, I strongly advise anyone picking up this controller to rebind all 4 of the face buttons to your additional inputs. So you've got 2 on the rear and then 2 additional bumpers up top. As far as the accessory button suite, I think we have a little bit of a cluttered dashboard, or ass board, I guess you could call it. You got a ton of toggles and dials, buttons back here. You have a 4-way toggle or switch, which is very hard to switch between all 4 of the modes. It almost bleeds between mode 3 and 4. Then you have these buttons, which are in a good position where you can easily hit them, but they don't feel the best as they do travel pretty far into the front faceplate. No complaints with the actual home button, which is the BinBok logo, as I wake up the controller and it roars to life with that RGB. Then yet another sync button down there. No 3.5mm headphone jack, just a lot going on here. But all the core fundamentals are there and don't offend me. I'm going to go ahead and give the accessory button suite a 5 out of 10. As for the thumbsticks or analog sticks, I'm not a tremendous fan. They are potentiometer, not Hall effect, so you can get stick drift at any time. These are more susceptible to receiving stick drift, or getting it, I should say. Anti-friction rings, but they don't really glide very smooth, as they are also doubling as RGB LED light strips as well. Clicking down L3 and R3 does feel pretty tight and secure. There is a pretty nasty audible click whenever breaking neutral, but that'll most likely break in over time as these are brand new thumbstick modules. But whenever you break neutral, you do get a little click, which might not even be picked up over the mic. You hear it IRL. The pre-installed option feels horrendous on fingertips. Like, I can't even game like this. They're flat and they have these spirals which just don't feel good on your thumbs. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop them off. They're just held on with friction. And you do have a couple of swappable options. We're gonna start with these mid concaves, which are actually flat. They don't really dip in with much of a cup or dish for your thumb to rest in. They're pretty much flat. In fact, these are more of a mid high rise. They do give you quite a bit of height, but the grip just isn't there with that center section being a little bit slick. So we're gonna try KontrolFreeks right now. These are the PlayStation 4 and 5 variants. They do snap on, but they are loose and wiggly. You can pinch and twist, although in normal gameplay, that's most likely not going to happen. Switch Pro variant, a little bit less wiggly, a little tauter. And then last but certainly not least, let's go ahead and take off the thumbstick cap first. Save our thumbstick modules as they are potentiometer. So not really. You could force it on there, but it's already starting to damage the cap, digging, gouging into the rubber. So the best one is the Nintendo Switch. Keep in mind there's an exclusive discount of 12%. Use code Stallions at KontrolFreek. And then as for these little niblets, I didn't forget about you. I want to flick you up and down the street. Oh yeah. That actually feels fee-fi-fo fucking phenomenal. I might just leave that on there. That actually... awkwardly enough, even for shooters, just for regular shooters, modern shooters, this actually feels hell of good. This is the winner chicken dinner for me. I'm eating that chicken dinner, gobbling it up. Over here in Gamepad Tester, taking a look at these potentiometer thumbsticks, which are looking a little bit, what the hell? Ooh. Which are looking a little sloppy toppy, as they don't really snap back to a perfect resting value, although you can get it there, but you can also cheese it to not snap back to 0.0002 or 0.00392. Which are the two most common, in my personal experience in testing over the last few years and few hundred controllers. Resting value for potentiometer and Hall effect thumbstick modules, a common calibration out of the box, if you will. Let's do a circularity test. Yeah. Typical potentiometer thumbsticks that you would see inside of Xbox or PlayStation controllers, generally between the 10 and 16% average error rate, sometimes higher over the years. They degrade, they begin to drift, they walk the yard on you. But no weird inner or outer dead zone baked in or anything that raises an eyebrow. These will work perfectly in gameplay until they don't. As for the bumpers, these have a really unique ergonomic shape as your index fingers kind of get cupped in this little dish, this half pipe, if you will, in between these additional bumpers, which are in the rear button section, and I like them quite a goddamn bit. And the actual bumpers feel fantastic. Actuating them happens with the same force at the hinge or over here with the meteor finger. I wish there was a little bit more dots or stippling extended from this section all the way around the side. And this gloss was ditched, as this will collect fingerprints and micro scratches like nobody's business and just looks a little bit tacky in my opinion. But the bumpers get the job done. So it's going to be an 8 out of 10. As for the triggers, they feel almost like Xbox buttons, except they have this little chin or lip, which you don't feel unless you accidentally go up and over, like I just did there. Again, same story as the bumpers. I wish the dots or stippling were extended to the side for a little bit more grip and also just ditch this gloss. But good amount of travel, good resistance, no trigger lock or stop system. I'm going to go ahead and give them a 6 out of 10. I have a lot positive to say about these rear buttons and only a couple of slight gripes or things I'd like revised with the next version or iteration. And shit, who knows, maybe the $40 Gemini I'm testing tomorrow will have what I'm talking about. Let's get the cons out of the way. These are extremely tiny and there's only 2 of them. So if you have smaller hands or your hands just don't really rest naturally over these 2, then you might have some issue hitting them. For me, it worked out perfectly to where the meat or this little bally McBone, this bone nugget right here on my middle fingers rests perfectly on the rear buttons. I'm 5'11". These are what my hands look like. And bam, fits perfect. Also, they are very quiet. No, we're still on the cons. And another con, I'd like to see 2 more added, maybe down here, or even shit, the ones you have to extend your fingers out for, although with all this hoopla with accessory buttons, this dashboard or accessory button suite back here, there really is no room for 2 additional buttons. That's why BinBok had to go with these 2 additional bumpers up top, which are actually pretty sick and remappable as well. But those are really my only 2 cons, is that if these don't line up ergonomically for your hands, then they're going to be hard to hit, and I wish there was 2 more of them so they didn't have to do these 2 additional bumpers, or they could keep those and do like what Ray Razer does and have 6 remappable inputs. Now, under the pros, you can bind these on the fly. The process is incredibly quick. I'm not paired up to my PC right now, so I'm just going to walk you through the process. You are going to hit the M or map button when you are paired to your console or PC. You're going to get 1 vibration out of the controller, and LED light 1 and 4 are going to be illuminated, letting you know you are in remapping mode. Then press whatever you want bound. That could be a face button, D-pad, or clicking down one of the sticks, L3 and R3. You'll get another vibration to let you know you're bound, then repeat the process for the other 3 remappable inputs. For me, these worked out perfectly, having these 2 in the bottom and then these 2 at the top. These actually worked out even better than Razer's, where you have your bumpers, additional bumpers, and triggers all accessible. To where these, you don't need to move your finger at all, and then just shift your index finger ever so slightly down, and you have access to your triggers. You, of course, can hold all 4 fingers out like that. I've never held a controller like that, so I know some people do. I'm not one of them. Maybe we should do a little poll on that. Not in this video, but I'll do a poll. The thumbnail and everything. Like, do you hold your controller like this? Or like this? Or like this? Or like this? Overall, I really like these rear buttons. The 2 back here and the additional bumpers, which I'm going to bundle into the rear button section scoring-wise, as I give them an 8 out of 10. Like them quite a bit. The score could have been even higher. 9 out of 10, 9.5. Who knows? Sky's the limit if they added 2 additional buttons down here. So if you did a Google search trying to discover the battery life of this controller, the first result is going to tout 30 hours. It's from Windows Central, a pretty reputable website, I would say. Sounded like an old Buick trying to turn over. I apologize for that. Forgot to grease my pistons this morning. But this doesn't correlate with the real world or any other platform, including Amazon and the manufacturer's website, which are going to give you the real deal, telling you this is a 1,000 milliamp hour battery on board, giving you between 10 to 12 hours advertised. I was getting around 10 with all the lights on, playing AAA games where I'm constantly flicking the sticks. Charge time is pretty gosh darn slow though, taking you around 3.5 to 4 hours to get up to snuff. I want to see what's going on in Lag City, USA. Population, hopefully not us. Hell fucking no. 2 milliseconds of input lag or delay. What the hell? So, as I did that long parcel tongue struggle to get my words out because I was a little bit jarred, taken aback by the fact that not just the one large outlier, which is most likely this huge number at the top when I just got started spinning the thumbsticks, but you also have these huge spikes of inconsistency that pop up to wink you in the face pretty commonly. 17, 13 inconsistencies that you would feel if you're a competitive player, and that sucks ass because other than that, you are around 2 milliseconds of input lag or delay on a 500 hertz stock clock. Yeah, you can see them popping up as I move them to and fro. It's telling you 6. That's a goddamn lie.
My detector test determined that was a lie.
So it seems like overall 2 milliseconds of input lag or delay, although with these huge inconsistencies. Well, let's bust out the flip-flops and the sunscreen, head over to LA. That's GamePad LA, and hello? She was waiting for me to tell her what I wanted to do. There we go. Rotate that left analog stick in a circle. Don't you dare stop. And as you're seeing, we are around that 2 millisecond mark, but all over the road, pretty far from each other, jitter high as shit. So I had a hell of a time getting up and running with the dongle, probably because I didn't read the portion of the instruction manual that tells you how to connect via wireless dongle. You would think D means D input mode, and then over here with W means Windows mode, which is going to be X input because that's been the standard on Windows for quite a few years. Not the case. D stands for douchebag, and it also stands for dongle, or 2.4 gigahertz dongle. So you're going to go all the way to the right, and then you're going to plug that dongle in. You should automatically be paired, but there is also a repairing button on the controller and the dongle. But now we are ready to run 1,000 sample test and X input test, which looks like 4 milliseconds of input lag or delay, but you are still getting those huge sporadic stutters or sputters, a bunch of them in there. As you can see, those outliers, which just pop up to say, hey, am I getting you killed in gameplay yet? Yeah, I probably am helping. I mean, you sucked anyway, but I'm not helping the problem at all. But we can deem it 4 milliseconds of input lag or delay on a 250 hertz clock with the dongle, although consistency? Where is she? I haven't met her. To get into Bluetooth discoverable mode, that is X input Bluetooth, put it into the W for Windows, and then hold down the sync button right here. You're gonna get a vibration out of the controller. The RGB's gonna come to life, unless you've disabled it, I assume. And the LED lights in the center are gonna go sporadic. Now we're gonna add a Bluetooth device, checking on the controller to make sure it is still in discoverable mode. Keep in mind, some of these controllers only stay in for about 30 seconds, so might have to re-enter it into pairing mode. So it took forever off camera waiting for this to happen, but it now Xbox wireless controller, which makes me concerned because it took so long to connect. There we go, vibration in my hand, that I do believe the input lag or delay is going to be absolutely atrocious, as it most likely is an older Bluetooth technology like 3.0, as I couldn't find the card listed anywhere online. Oh shit. Oh, mama. But as you can see, there's a ton of chop, stuttery, sputtery, stuttery. Geez, I want to run a circularity test with the Bluetooth on. Whoa, it's all over the road. Yeah. Hey, but look, we're snapping back to a good resting value now. It's just slow as shit and stuttery. And the biggest deal here is we're not in X input mode and we're not recognized in X input test, even though technically it says, yeah, I'm ready for you, but come on, let's do gamepad LA. Nothing gamepad LA either. So the controller keeps turning itself off and I keep having to repair it, which takes about 10 to 15 seconds to pair via Bluetooth. It's not like just turning on a console. The controller turned itself off again as well, even though I'm sitting here providing input to the PC. Yeah, and irresponsive over here in gamepad LA as well. So the only thing that's registering this controller, okay, there we go. Just vibrated in my hand again. Go back over to gamepad LA. Oh, here we go. Oh my God, we're making things happen over here. Yeah, all over the road, sweetheart. We are bouncing around all the way up to 67. I repeat to you once again, because this spread is a fat gapper, as we like to call it here on the channel. We got 1 all the way up to 67. That's insane for an average of 5, but I wouldn't trust it. If you've come to rock and come to overclock, then you've come to the right place. This drop down, we're going to select all, and we are going to see an Xbox 360 controller for Windows, not overclocked, stock clock, for around 2 to 8 milliseconds of input lag or delay. Let's do our thing on her, shall we? Unplug. Replug. The overclock is now reflected. Let's test it. Next input test, shall we? Spinning and grinning in a circle, we are going to see... Oh yeah, definitely looked like it did something to us. I would recommend overclocking this controller. You still get those micro stutters, those inconsistency sputters that pop up to say, hey, fuck you, buddy. But instead of getting an average of 2 milliseconds, you're getting an average of 1. So the overclock is effective and does seem to tighten up consistency a skosh, but you still have these major outliers popping up. So it's not perfect, but do overclock. As for overclocking the dongle, it is already reflecting an overclock when I went with the wireless dongle method. So let's run it and gun it. Negative. The dongle doesn't benefit from an overclock in any way, inconsistent and slow as shit. As for the use of converters or adapters with the BinBok Accessories XB2, you've got 3 modes of connectivity. You can go wired, use the 2.4 gigahertz dongle, which is my recommended means of connectivity. So you have the convenience of wireless with the best peak speeds, or you can use Bluetooth as well, which I didn't have any issues, but as we saw from our testing, it's not the best. And on the PS5 with the BinBok Accessories XE2, you can navigate the console and play PS4 games with the 3 modes of connectivity. As for the pros, cons, and verdict, I really wanted to like this controller because of the GameCube nipple. It's very fun to see a little nipplet from the GameCube era. I really do enjoy these 2 additional bumpers, even more so than the extra buttons on the Razer controllers, which I've praised for years. These feel ergonomically better as you have access to the bumpers, even more so than the Razer controllers, which I know are right there, but these are even better. But unfortunately, there are 3 major cons, setbacks, points of improvement that might be a deal breaker for you and make this not a recommend. The first one is going to be this rocks potentiometer thumbstick module. So if you're somebody that swears by Hall effect, that's all you buy now because they are far less likely to develop stick drift. Nothing against you. Fair on it. Me personally, I do believe there are pros and cons to both, and I've had a great run of luck with not getting stick drift. I've got some controllers I've owned for about 4-5 years, PlayStation and Xbox controllers. Pretty heavily used as well. It's not like I always had a massive collection of controllers over my shoulder or anything like that. I was a normal controller using dude at one time. Had like maybe 2 or 3 controllers I'd swap out, you know? And as potentiometer thumbsticks, they still don't perform very well in comparison to good high quality potentiometer johns on the market. For example, the mini sticks from Thrustmaster or the stalkers out of the DualSense Edge, which are swappable. And the stock thumbsticks, other than the GameCube one, are pretty lackluster. The next one is going to be if you are a competitive player, I would just steer clear because their consistency just wasn't there. Wired or wireless, granted, if you overclock, you do tighten up the speeds a little bit, lower them. However, the results were not fantastic in X input or gamepad LA, and you can feel that in gameplay. And the last one is the face buttons are so atrocious. I hate them so goddamn much that I fully advise remapping all of them to the top 2 bumpers and the rear 2 buttons, the 4 remappable inputs. I really do like the ergonomics or comfort. It is freakishly comfortable, kind of like the palm grips or haunches of the Razer controllers. Great if you got medium to larger size hands, but the rubber or silicone compound feels even nicer. Soft touch faceplate feels great. Ergonomics on the rear buttons, killer. You can remap them quick as shit. So things I do like, things I don't like, I've laid them out for you. The decision is yours. This is linked in the description below. Drop in the comment section below what you think of the BinBok controllers, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace. If you enjoyed the video, liking it helps it to get seen by more gamers, so this information will reach and assist them as well. Much like the back of the TV, I've got plugs for all of my socials down there in the description below. And your wallet will greatly thank you if you check the description, because there are exclusive discounts on a ton of products, including controllers, KontrolFreeks, keyboards, mouse pads, clothes, and energy drinks. And keep in mind that you, the viewer, keep this channel running. The more stallions and stallionettes trotting around the stable, the better, so mollywop that subscribe button like it owes you money, and we'll have the same amount of fun tomorrow.